Okay, so here goes. Last week I told you I could have cancer. Yay! Since that video, why should I yay that? Since that video I've had blood, I've had pain, I've had to go to the emergency department at the hospital, I've had loads of tests done, I've had thoughts and dreams about death, and I've turned into a bit of a cancer celebrity. Yeah, all in all, it's been a bit of a strange week. Life is just full of surprises. What's going to happen next? Come this way and find out. Welcome to my YouTooSpain diary. Hi, Scats here. It's Friday, February the 9th as I speak, and once again, I don't know if this video will come out today, whether it'll reach you today. Anything can happen, but I'm not going to worry about that. There are a lot of more important things going on in my life than timing video releases. Life just keeps on throwing up surprises, so let's just go with the flow, shall we? Before I even released last week's video, that was released on the Sunday, the first surprise leapt out of the ether and slapped me in the bollocks. This was the Saturday, actually, 2 days after the colonoscopy. I'd felt really good on the Friday. There was no pain down there, and poo alert that my stools were a pretty good consistency. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to know. Sorry if you're having your breakfast right now. There was no visible blood. I was kind of feeling better. I was kind of feeling completely better. Yes, I know that sounds weird and probably a bit stupid because I know I've got this potential beast of a tumour growing inside of me. But after putting up with and actually ignoring the pain for a year or 2 years, I don't know how long I've been ignoring it and calling it, oh, it's only discomfort. Anyway, the sudden lack of pain and the knowledge that 7 polyps had been cut away, and there was a lack of blood, it made me think, well, have they actually got rid of the problem? Was it the polyps causing the blood and the pain all along? And maybe the lesion is just an irritation. Maybe it's just a minor irritation. I mean, the doctors don't know what it is yet, do they? And then Saturday came and the pain returned and the blood returned, and this little hopeful dream I was having just floated away, and I was left telling myself off for being so ridiculous. I mean, I'd seen the doctor's face when she was telling me it looks bad. Why would I think otherwise? So, and because it said on my report sheet from the colonoscopy that if you've got pain or bleeding, go straight to the emergency department at the hospital. And because, of course, as you saw in the last video, I promised I'd never ever say the words, oh, it's nothing, again. So I said to Liz, I think I should get this checked out immediately, don't you? And she said, yes, that's what we said you'd do. So another trip to the hospital, and I have to say, having experienced emergency departments in both England and in Ireland, I was so amazed at the speed, the efficiency, the organisation in the hospital here. So I went to the front desk, I showed them my colostomy? No, I showed them my colonoscopy report. I told them I've got bleeding and pain, and they gave me a ticket with a 3-digit code on it and pointed me to the waiting area. And as I passed through the door towards the waiting area, past the first door that said triage, that means triage, there's only one letter difference, so it was fairly obvious. Someone inside that room called out, Andrew, which is how they pronounce my name, and I said, see, and I was straight in. I hadn't even sat down. Really lovely, pleasant doctor assessed me, asked a few questions, took my blood pressure, sent me out into the waiting room again, telling me I'd be called in, and no more than 5 minutes later, the screen with the codes on bleeped. My code came up and I got called into the consulting room. I was examined there, then sent back to wait, and 5 minutes later the screen bleeped my code again and I was into the X-ray room. Yes, That's right. The English people amongst you might be a bit shocked at this, because it's not 3 miles down a corridor in a different wing across a road and in a different hospital entirely, like in England. There was a machine right there in the emergency area. That was really quick. So I was back in the waiting area, and then about 3 minutes later, another bleep, and I was in the nursing room having a blood test. And then was the only real wait of the whole day, which was less than half an hour, while presumably they were doing all of the checks and checking the results. And then they bleeped me back into the consulting room to be told that the tests were clear and not to worry. Big relief. And they said the pain was natural after the colonoscopy, and probably it's just my intestines were shrinking back down again, my colon, whatever they call it. Yes, my lower intestine. The blood tests were okay, and the blood that was coming out, she said, that's okay as long as it's with the stools. If I had any blood on its own, they said, then definitely come back. But otherwise, no worries, you can go home. 45 minutes I was in the hospital. 45 minutes. My grandson had been through A&E the day before in Leicester with a rugby injury. Huge lump on the bone on his arm. Took him 5 hours to be seen. I'm so glad at the service that there is here, because, you know, it's a worry for everyone when you're sitting in a waiting room, in the emergency room. So, meanwhile, Liz and I, after this emergency visit on the Saturday, we popped to the next town along the coast. The coast? No, it's a coast. And we celebrated the fabulous state healthcare system and also my temporary reprieve by having a little glass of wine and some tapas in a bar by the sea, which turned out to be owned by some lovely French people. They were really pleasant. Anyway, those few minutes turned into a couple of hours, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't get last week's video out until Sunday. Never mind, eh? I think I deserved a bit of a treat. In fact, I think I'm going to make a habit out of it on this cancer journey while I can, if I'm not being too presumptuous about the outcome. If there's a way of making it pleasant at all, then I am going to take it. This is something I vow right now. I vow. Talking of which, talking of being pleasant, that is, you have all been so pleasant. Pleasant is actually too soft a word. You've been awesome. The responses to last week's video were unanimously supportive to the max. You were just so full of love and positivity, and oh, that's getting to me again. All of the offers of support and encouragement, and the stories about how you went through the same thing and survived and thrived, means so much to me. I've had so many offers from local people offering lifts to my hospital appointments so that Liz doesn't have to miss out on work. And in fact, it seems that, you know, I've turned into a bit of a local cancer celebrity. I say this with levity, of course. I actually walked into town one day. It just took me ages to reach the shops I was heading for. It was like batting people away left and right. I'm only joking, of course. It would be, what's the word, disingenuous to complain about everyone's kindness and love. They were all asking me how I was, and you know, here's me saying peace and love at the end of every show, and now the love is coming back. And it's down every street. It's all over the comments on the videos. Thank you. It's I'm so grateful you've all lifted me up. Yes, I love you all. So, okay, come on, Scats. There's more of this video to do. So what else has been happening? Yes, I went for the CT scan on Monday. And that day, Liz had some work on, so a really good friend, Amanda, offered to give me a lift. and she used to be a nurse. So we talked and talked about medical stuff on the way down, and that was really informative, and it was comforting as well. And we had a really good laugh. She's very funny. And I was saying how I was expecting the CT machine and the MRI machine later in the week to flood me with radiation. I don't know much about these things, but I was thinking, well, if I get flooded with radiation, it'll give me superpowers of some kind. I mean, I read a lot of superhero comics when I was a kid. Big Spider-Man fan. This chat got me thinking, which radioactive creature would I want to be bitten by to gain its powers? Or, in fact, what powers a CT machine would bestow upon me? So what do you think? Put your answers in the comments. I mean, Spidey powers. Obviously, climbing up walls and moving incredibly quickly and being able to fight and swing everywhere on a web. Of course, who wouldn't want that? I'd quite like to be able to fly as well. That would be really cool. A CT machine probably wouldn't do that. Probably. Who knows? But maybe it might give me X-ray vision. Definitely might. Maybe. Or maybe laser beam eyes. That's a Superman thing. Or is it Gazer Beam? You remember Gazer Beam from The Incredibles? Yes. I've been thinking about this a lot. You can tell, can't you? Hence the title of this video, as far as I can tell, based on what my dreams and nightmares have been telling me this week. There can only be two outcomes from all of this, either death or superpowers. And let me tell you, I will be very disappointed and annoyed if it turns out to be death. Been thinking a little bit about it, trying not to, of course. I mean, I try to think of everything else, try to have distractions, work, anything. But when I stop concentrating, like you do, cancer and death come rebounding back at me like they're on an elastic band, and they go thunk straight in front of me. They go, oh, it's you again. It's not as if cancer and death are one thing. Well, people keep telling me, quite rightly, the survival rate for this kind of cancer is quite high, and that's really good. And I don't even know for definite that I've got it yet. I mean, I'm fairly sure in my head, but it's not definite. I'm hedging my bets at the moment. Still, when they go thunk in the face, they appear to be just one big squidgy ball of crap. So I'm in the process of just thinking of superpowers. Go on then, which one would you have? Or ones? I tell you what, from all of the messages I've been getting in the video comments and on Facebook, I've heard so many people saying, right, I'm going to the doctors for a checkup. Thank you so much for giving me a kick up the arse. I could actually be saving people's lives. It just hit me the other day. I don't think I've ever had that effect on the world before. I mean, I've helped a lot of people on this channel make their journey to Spain, made it easier for them by introducing them to experts and lovely specialists and people who've made their life easier and got them through the bureaucracy, but potentially saving their lives? It's a bit mad, isn't it? What telling your story can do. It turns you into a superhero. So I was talking about the CT scan when Amanda gave me a lift. Once again, hospital, speed, efficiency, absolutely wonderful. We arrived at 10:30. I was almost immediately given the contrast liquid to drink. That's the stuff that goes into you so that they can read the results of the scan better. Don't know much about it. Going to have to read up on that. Liz knows all about it. And I've got this drink was really big. In fact, here's the picture, one side of the screen or another, or the whole screen. That's what it looks like. Milky, milky. I downed it actually in 3 or 4 goes. It was a lot nicer than the laxative, but still not what I'd want to be drinking on a Saturday night, on a night out. But okay, it does the job. It wasn't all that unpleasant, except for the last bit of it, which was really lumpy. So gooey, lumpy, like a little bit like eating oysters, which actually I quite like. I bite into them. Anyway, won't go into that. So then, half an hour later, they called me in, sat me down, asked me for weight and height. They checked that I hadn't eaten that morning and that I didn't have any metal stuff on me, which it would have been bad for the machine. They said any allergies. They always ask any allergies. That's so far what they've all done. And all I have, I think, is penicillin, so that's all I say. And then I was lying down, had a cannula put in my arm, and actually, I don't know if I can. No, I can't get this sleeve up anyway. I said, so what's the cannula for? And they said it's for the IV contrast, which was a surprise because I'd had the contrast drink. So I said, why? But I've had the drink, and you're putting it in my arm. The guy said, dos contrastes. 2 contrasts. So fair enough. Belt and braces, that's what we say. And I asked how long I'd be in the machine, and he said 5 minutes. And he was right. The thing I remember actually about this machine, apart from the fact that it looks like a big polo, were the 2 little pictures right above my head. One was a face with an open mouth with lines of air in front of it, and the other one was a face with a closed mouth. And the first one lit up after I just got in the machine and waited a minute or two, and then there was a recorded voice that said something in Spanish that I didn't quite pick up the first time, but turned out to be breathe in. And then the second, I'd also guessed very quickly, was hold your breath. So very simple, and I didn't have to hold my breath for more than a few seconds really. So I didn't move, obviously, when the scan was happening. And then it was all done very quickly. They took out the cannula, told me to go and wait for 5 minutes in the waiting area, and then I could go. Amanda was sitting there. She was really surprised that it took such a short length of time. She brought a book with her, expecting a long wait. And when I came out, she thought, oh, I'm just coming out to wait until I go back in again and have the scan done properly. I said, no, they've said I can go. So we, guess what? We went and celebrated with a little glass of wine by the sea. This is becoming a little habit. In fact, it's more than a habit. Did I say earlier? I'm going to make a tradition out of it. So after every hospital visit, a little sit down by the sea. I might not be able to have a glass of wine after it. Sometimes, I don't know, if it's chemotherapy, maybe I won't want to do that, but might still do it anyway, see how it goes on. But the French cafe that Liz and I'd been to on the Saturday, it wasn't open because we'd finished too early. It didn't open until midday. So we went a little further along the prom, not very far at all, only about 3 cafes down, to this other delightful little tapas bar, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm not even sure it had a name. It just had the menus outside. It was just lovely, and there was lots of chat and laughs again. So that was Monday. I'll skip now to Thursday. That's yesterday. Liz took me back to the hospital to have the MRI scan. So that's a big magnetic thing, and that took less than an hour too. I think I was in the machine a bit longer than I was in the CT, and it was a bit more daunting. I was strapped in really tight with this plasticky thing over the area that was going to be scanned. Moved into this thing, and in this tube, it's a very tight fit. The ceiling is only just here, and it got quite hot. I wasn't wearing trousers. I had this the paper thing on, but I had quite a thick cotton t-shirt. I wish I'd put on a thinner t-shirt because it was really hot in there, and I got a little bit sweaty. And they said, keep still, do not move. So I was worried that if I breathed during the scan, and if I breathed too deeply, then the scan would be blurry. I did my best to use my diaphragm to only move my chest up and down, because they weren't scanning my chest, just the sort of stomach area. But that is the opposite of what you do as a singer. You're supposed to, breathe and the diaphragm goes down and out, and it actually moves your stomach rather than lifting your chest up like this, because that constricts your throat, etc. Anyway, never mind about that. So it's the opposite of what you do. I was trying to retrain myself as it went on. Of course, the scan takes longer, so you can't hold your breath like you do in the CT. It just goes on for much longer. The noises were really odd, and they weren't all regular and always the same. There were several passes, I think, that the machine made. They gave me a pair of headphones, just sort of noise cancelling things. One of the noises that happened regularly was like a loud grandfather clock, but it wasn't going tick tock, it was just going tock. It's like tock, 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 tock. And at the same time as that one, there was this repeated buzzing, like a buzzsaw or like a laser beam cutting through something. In my head, it was a cartoon character being repeatedly cut in half with a laser going, ow, 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 ow. It was like Itchy and Scratchy or something like that. So I was thinking these very silly thoughts just to get me through, and I nearly laughed out loud, which would have been bad because my stomach would have gone up and down, and that would have spoiled the scan, which would have been a bit of a waste of quite an expensive piece of kit. These things cost hundreds of thousands of euros, maybe millions, I don't know, but expensive. Anyway, after that, guess what we did? Yes, we went along the coast and sat by the sea with a glass of wine or three and had a right old laugh. Actually, we bumped into a friend, shared a table with her. She's been to a few of my gigs, and it turns out she was opening a cafe right next door to the Norwegian cafe that we went in. They were lovely in there as well. So because she's opening a lovely place next door, there's going to be some kind of Belgian and German and Austrian food that she's doing during the day, sort of snacky things, and then, you know, sort of steaks and things like that in the evening, bigger meals. We're going to go there next time I go into the hospital, I think. Certainly we'll go to her place as often as we can. Oh, another tradition I've started for the duration of this journey, and possibly for the rest of my life, whichever comes first. I made a toast, and I'd like you to join me in this toast. Raise a glass and shout, "Still alive!" I'm hoping it'll catch on. I might even get a t-shirt printed. Anything else to tell you? I went for a blood test this morning. Here's a picture of me and my punctured arm before I took the plaster off. Oh, I got them to use my right arm today. My left arm makes me look like I'm a junkie. It's been punctured 3 times in the last week. That's done now. I had to go out really early in the pouring rain to do that. It's raining through, and there's actually some dripping through the ceiling here, which isn't good, but it is excellent news for the reservoirs across southern Spain. It's been raining since about 3 o'clock this morning, and it's not going to stop until around midnight tonight. Apparently we need about a month of rainfall to properly fill the reservoirs. Continuous rainfall, that is. So one day isn't really enough, but it's a start. It didn't really make it easy to drive down into town on the flooded roads to get the blood test, though. We do tend to get rivers crossing the roads and some minor landslides up here, which could really damage my little car if I go over some big bumps. Not good. Talking of which, I've had to postpone something I was going to be starting today because of this weather. For Christmas, Liz bought me 4 flamenco guitar lessons. Yeah, I was really looking forward to them starting this afternoon. I was hoping actually that it was going to be a nice distraction, especially for this week of waiting that I've got coming up, and possibly throughout whatever treatment I might need. And you never know, it might lead to me meeting more Spanish people through doing group classes, or maybe playing with some of the flamenco guitar people that play in town here. I'll learn more about the culture, and I'll end up playing more Spanish music and incorporating some of that style into my own music, which is all very exciting and groovy. So I was going to show you what I've learned on my next video, but it's just too dangerous for me to consider driving down the mountain road this afternoon in our little car and going all the way to Malaga and back. So I've postponed the lessons until after my diagnosis, and I've even said to my teacher, if he wants to book someone else into those spots, I would understand. I've told him that, there's a possibility of very quickly having to go through chemotherapy and hospital appointments and hospital stays. So there's some uncertainty there. I'll wait and see what he says and report back to you. I'm sure you'll be hearing me playing some flamenco guitar in the very near future. His name, by the way, is Fran, which is short for Francisco, and that is both coincidental and funny to me. It's coincidental because I've named my lesion Frankie. Well, the funny thing as well, not just the coincidental thing, but the funny thing about the name Fran is something that Liz and I find funny. There was an episode of the sitcom Black Books where a character played by think his name is Peter Serafinovich. Hope I haven't got that wrong. Anyway, his character has this deep, rich voice, which is a huge turn on for the character played by Tamsin Greig. She's fantastic. She's called Fran. In this particular scene, he's done the shipping forecast, you know, the BBC World Service, and that isn't long enough for her to get excited enough to finish. She has to phone him up, and so he's repeatedly saying her name over the telephone to her as she's moaning and writhing, and he's wondering what's going on. You'll get the picture, and he's going, "Fran, is that you, Fran? Do you want me to come over? I'll come over, Fran. Do you want me to come? I'll come." It's hilarious. You have to be there. And so Fran is a name that causes great hilarity in our house. Just watch it, you'll see. What apart from that is there to tell you? Not much, actually. In front of me is this week of waiting and thinking about death and superpowers, and of course about how Liz and I will cope financially if I can't earn any money for a while. We have no idea how long that while could be. Could be for a lot of this year, could be just for a few weeks. That could make things very difficult, whatever that period of time is. Anyway, so no more tests this week. The next time I go to the hospital will be for the results, and that will be before I release the next video. So the next time you see me on this video diary number 9, you will get to hear the results, so don't miss that one. There's a good chance the next video won't be released on the Friday when I get the results. It might be the Saturday or the Sunday. Depends on how bad the news is. If it's good, then I'll come back here. No, actually, if it's good news, we'll probably go for a glass of wine, and then it'll definitely be on the Saturday or Sunday. But I'll promise I will tell you as soon as I can. In the meantime, raise your glass. Still alive. And of course, let's do the cancer dance.